You continue. The other thing that is worth noting is the Supreme Court hearing the challenges to the tariff policy. And there was some speculation maybe that could boost the market. You had Goolsbee saying today that he didn't necessarily think it was a good idea, cautious about a further rate cut during the shutdown. That would take the market down. I'm going to have all this conversation with Kevin Green. He's in the know, watching the overall market. Joins me here at Schwab Impact. We've had a great couple of days so far. Kevin Green, good morning to you.
Good morning, Nicole. Yeah, we are seeing a little bit of pressure in the S&P 500, down about 0.6% as you were continuing to talk here. Technology is getting a lot more weaker, if you will. NVIDIA is starting to slide. Duolingo also moving to the downside here. So we have a situation in a market that continues to gyrate around these levels. We were able to see a little bit of a recovery yesterday. We did see a little bit of a selling pressure going into the close yesterday, and that's exactly what's being followed up this morning. Now, there's a lot of headlines that are in the news. Tariff policy, kind of a curveball or a wild card there to see how that's actually going to pan out. If we do see tariffs actually taken off the table, are we going to see the equity markets actually sell that because of other aggressive actions that the White House could take in order to kind of mitigate some of that risk? And you also have this situation where we have NVIDIA earnings coming on deck. Maybe you are seeing this kind of selling pressure taking place as a lot of the news from these Mag 7 names are now being priced into the market, and volatility continues to surge. We're seeing at a 19 VIX right now, getting close to around that 1.3, 1.4% implied move here. And I think the market just wants that new catalyst. And I'm not sure if NVIDIA is going to be that catalyst. We may also get some news around the government shutdown here today. After the elections, we did see that on Tuesday. We are starting to see the FAA actually starting to cut some some flights pretty aggressively here. Are we going to see a lot of these representatives get off the sidelines? Maybe we hear something from the Senate. Maybe that turns the market around. Yeah,
we heard that this morning. They're going to be cutting flights. Was it 10% or 40%? But it was a big number. Do you know what the number was?
It was 10% across several different airports.
They're going to be cutting the number of flights, and they were doing comparisons to past shutdowns, which were actually partial shutdowns. And so how grave of a story this really could become very quickly. And so they think that that may push lawmakers to get this thing through.
Yeah, it's going to be a very big pressure point, especially when you come to the holiday season. I mean, that's the real big moneymaker, not only for the airline companies themselves, but a lot of small and mid-sized businesses that are really relying on that holiday spending, that holiday travel. And so this is going to impact from rural communities to urban communities. And I think a lot of these representatives are probably going to be focusing on that moving forward, especially once again, we're done with the election cycle. So they have that kind of marker already put into place. And maybe we do see some form of a resolution that we kind of delay maybe this government shutdown, at least for now, try to figure out the healthcare policies and things of that nature. But I think that's going to be a really big story here moving forward. And the tariff policies, do we see them getting removed from the Supreme Court? That could be a possibility. The White House definitely has other avenues to impose those tariffs. I'm not sure how much of an impact the market's going to have around that decision. I think this is going to be a government shutdown story here moving forward.
Look, I think we don't know how the market might react. Will there be a knee-jerk reaction, at least to the upside, or will it come up off the lows if we get that news? There might be a sense of relief with that, to have some clarity versus uncertainty. The market doesn't like uncertainty, but nobody knows how the market will react. When it comes to tech, and I do want to get to the Challenger labor numbers, because the layoffs have been huge. Layoffs surged to the 20-year highs. So while we're not getting some of the data, we've been getting some soft data from ADP and such. But just on the tech story, NVIDIA, Palantir, AMD, three big movers this week, and Qualcomm out with its numbers. I mean, just one more final thought here on tech.
Yeah, so if we're looking at Qualcomm's numbers, they came in pretty decent. At the end of the day, they did beat both top, bottom line. Guidance, for the most part of their commentary, looked a little bit healthy here. I think this is more of a buy the rumor, sell the news event. They had one business unit that did actually miss the street's expectations, but a very small one. I think it only drives about $1.9 billion compared to, a significant amount when you're looking at some of these other industries within their business line. So not that big of a mover here. Palantir, buy the rumor, sell the news type of an event. We have seen Alex Karp getting a little bit more aggressive when it comes to the media and his commentary. So I think we gotta
commentary.
Yeah, so it's getting a little bit heavy there. And then the OpenAI news yesterday, I think, has gone under the radar here, but their CFO kind of talking about the federal government providing a backstop for them in order for them to expand their data center investments and be able to create cheaper rates. I don't think that the market probably did not like that. I think that's another reason why NVIDIA kind of dropped to the downside here, but you're really kind of talking about a backstop for OpenAI in order to keep this boom going. And unfortunately, Nicole, the AI story is driving around 0.7% of GDP growth right now. This is the only thing that's really growing our economy at a sustainable rate. We can see other areas faltering here. So let's see if that actually does come to fruition, but I think that's also providing maybe some of the selling pressure within the tech space just in general because of those comments.
And Tesla Investor Day. So we'll have Tesla to keep an eye there, folks. As far as what happened with Palantir, I mean, Alex Karp saying basically he really gave his rebuttal. That's a nice way to say it, to Solomon and Pick, right, from Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley when they put out that cautionary tone. And he, sort of really gave his rebuttal that that's not the case. In fact, he felt quite bullish, right? That was the tone he gave us. When we look at the labor market here, we look at the challenger numbers, and the big picture here is the lows that we're seeing. And we haven't necessarily seen that. For example, we got the ADP. We saw some strong hiring in the larger companies. Yeah. This one here, you had 153,000 in October, the highest since, let's see, 2003. So layoffs have surged to 20-year highs.
Yeah, so I think we need to balance this report out.
Right.
Challenger is a very volatile data set, and they're around job announcements or jobs being cut that have been announced. It doesn't mean that we're actually going to see those follow through, and it doesn't mean that they actually have to be layoffs or those getting fired. It also could be attrition over time. So Walmart had an announcement about a month ago, 2 months ago, where they basically said, well, we're going to keep our headcount the same level over the next 5 years. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to stay at the same company for 5 years, but they're going to, backfill just to what they need. Obviously, we had some other companies, UPS, kind of showing up in this report. So you're right, 153,000 that were announced. There's a 183% surge since September, and you're looking at a 175% increase on a year-over-year basis. But this doesn't automatically translate to what the labor market is going to actually feel. We have seen head fakes from this Challenger's report before. So I think unfortunately, it probably carries a little bit more weight because we do not have the government data. But once we get the government data, probably putting this one in the background for now. It's concerning, but I'm not sure we can really hang our hat to say this is actually happening in the economy fully. Some of it maybe, but not the whole thing maybe.
And we were due to get non-farm payrolls tomorrow. We won't get that. But what's interesting, too, is your point that you made about the layoffs. They're announcements. They're not actually laid off yet. Sometimes they also aren't they also counting jobs that they were putting out there and then pulling them off? Yeah. We saw that. I saw that with some of the story stocks. When they say we're going to do X number of let's say they say 10,000, but it might have been 5,000 jobs that were listed. They're just pulling those off. Do they count those, right?
Right, exactly. And these are announcements that they are looking at their data set. So you can announce, there's companies that announce a lot of things, right? Sure. They announce a lot of things, and sometimes, and most of the times, they don't come to fruition. And a lot of those announcements are looking at a longer term time frame, 5 years, 10 years, or even 2 years from now, where we are really looking at a data set that's focused on the month to month. So once again, is it a trend? I think we are starting to see a trend. Is it something that is really, really concerning right now? I don't think it's really being supported by any other data set. The aggressiveness of this number, right? The trend might still be going in the wrong direction, but the aggressiveness of this number, you're talking about 175% on a year-over-year basis. We're not seeing that in ADP.
That you put it into some perspective. So take this one with a grain of salt. Also, last but not least, we look at the commodity space. I saw oil and gold not moving too much, less than 1%. I did see Bitcoin at 103,000, dip below 100,000 this week after having been over 125,000. Yeah. So, Bitcoin folks have been jostled around a bit of late. Some thoughts on commodities?
Yeah, so for Bitcoin, you're hitting that structural area support, 100,000. Let's see if some buyers really step in. We're trading at around 102,000 right now if you're looking at the futures contracts. If it breaks below 100,000 and it sustains below that level for about a week or so, you get a little bit concerned that it comes down to around 85,000 or so. Now, crude oil, we did see a little bit of a sell-off here. Obviously, we have supply concerns in the market. We have a lot of inventory that's on water right now, and this demand story is really not that great. Nat gas moving to the upside here. Here's one area that I like to talk about, that everybody loves to talk about, is the grain markets, though. In the background, Nicole, we are starting to see China purchase grains. We did see a purchase announcement from yesterday for wheat and sorghum. Wheat and sorghum. So we are starting to see soybeans being purchased, wheat. So In the background, China's holding their own, maybe not as aggressively as we would like to see, but they are making some steps there. And if we still see some positive signs, we could see maybe some more favorability when it comes to these tariffs over the next couple months.
Kevin Green, I enjoy our conversations here at Impact, Schwab Impact Conference. We have a whole day filled. Kevin Green, senior markets correspondent, thank you for being with us.